What's up, everyone? Welcome back to my Galaxy Z Flip6 dirty review. Okay, I'm sure some of you clicked on this video and you're wondering, what is a dirty review? Okay, so what I mean by a dirty review is I just sit down with the devices. We have the Flip6 here and the Flip5, and I just hit record and I just go off the top of my head. You know, not much editing done other than maybe if I mess up, I cut out, you know, mess ups and stuff like that. It's not a heavily edited video with lots of B-roll or video from like the Samsung Unpacked event, stuff like that. So I wanted to do this because, you know, right in front of me, you guys can't see it, but I actually have my Flip6 video uploading, and it took me a long time to edit because I did B-roll and to compare different aspects of the device. And even though it's only a 9-minute video, it took me probably at least 2 hours to edit. And so as it's uploading and I'm doing my tags and title and stuff like that and the thumbnail, I just got this feeling that come over me like, this just doesn't really feel like me. I'm still going to post the video. Not really sure if I'll post this one, but I just wanted something that felt a little more natural to me. Like if I were to sit down with a friend or family member and I'm showing them these devices, how would I explain it to them? So the first thing I want to show you guys, if you haven't seen my other fully edited review, is here on the Flip6. I talked about it having a popping noise when I open it, and it seems to only do that if it's been closed for a while. So, which it has. My Flip5's been folded for a while. So let's open the Flip5 here. So as we open the Flip5 here, it's nice and smooth. No popping or anything like that. But if we take a listen to the Flip6, and you guys might have to turn your volume up or put in some headphones or something. It's just really crunchy. It's got like a crunchy noise to it. And that's a little bit concerning. And, you know, that one didn't sound terribly bad. I've heard it sound much worse. But I think the main thing people want to know is what's different versus last year's model. Now, I'll go ahead and say if you have a Flip 4, the Flip6 is worth an upgrade because you get this large outer display in comparison to the small outer display on the Flip 4. So if you have a Flip 4, this is a pretty big upgrade. But if you have a Flip 5 like me, it's really not worth it. So starting with the cover display, if we take a look at this, let's kind of set the brightness maybe about in the middle there on that one. And the Flip6 here, set the brightness about in the middle. So if you look at these side by side, nothing has changed. It's still the same outer display, the same peak brightness, the same refresh rate, and pretty much the only thing that's really new is if we scroll over. Oh, I gotta unlock it here. Let me do my fingerprint. Well, apparently I gotta put in my pin. It's been a little while since I've done my fingerprint, apparently. Okay, so now that that's unlocked, let's make sure it's unlocked here on the Flip6. So here is like the launcher widget for Samsung Good Lock, where you can use pretty much any app. And so both phones have that. Both have the weather. Okay, just ignore the difference there. I'm not connected to Wi-Fi right now. Both have the quick call. If you just want to tap one of these to quickly call someone, you can put 3 contacts right here. They both have the recent calls. They both have the calendar. And here is stock market info. And the only thing the Flip 5 doesn't have, and I suspect this is just a difference between One UI 6.1 on the Flip 5 versus 6.1.1 on the Flip 6. So you get a small square tile with the weather, Samsung Health, you get like a little widget there, and a calendar at the bottom. In, you know, it's rectangular shaped. Whereas on the Flip 5, it stops at the stock market info. And also, what's new on the cover screen of the Flip 6 is this one here, where you have an alarm, a small little window of your recent phone calls, and I think that's like a voice memo. But again, that's nothing major. I suspect it's just a difference in One UI 6.1.1. But in terms of the overall functionality, it's literally the exact same, which is a bit of a bummer for me, because you look at Motorola with the Razr Plus, which is $100 cheaper than the Flip 6, and the standard Razr 2024 pretty much has the same size display as the Flip 5 and the Flip 6, and I believe that's $700 or $800. So I really feel like Samsung missed an opportunity here to have a full screen display, and it just doesn't seem very competitive. I mean, the software is great, that's what they have going for them, but again, you have Motorola with that full outer display, as well as Xiaomi has a full outer display. And I wish Samsung would add a little more functionality to the outer display. So one thing that happens to me a lot is, so imagine you're in YouTube here. I'm not connected to the internet, but say you're watching a video and you get a notification, right? Here's what you have to do. You have to swipe up, swipe to the right to see your notifications, and then swipe back over to the launcher widget, open up YouTube or whatever you were doing, and press play. Go back to what you were doing. So I think Samsung should make it to where when you swipe down the first time, this would be your notification shade, and then swipe down again and get these controls here, the quick toggles, instead of making it to where, you know, just more swipes. So have it to where you wouldn't have to exit out of the app. You could just keep the video playing in the background or music, whatever. Swipe down. Oh, there's my notification. Okay. Do I want to reply to that? Do I not want to? Does that need my immediate attention? If not, swipe up, and that's it, right? Or if you want to change a setting, if you want to turn off Wi-Fi or put your phone in vibrate or silent, whatever, swipe down again. And another thing I wish Samsung would do is allow rotation. So like if you're in an app, I'm pretty sure the Motorola does this. I'd love to review one of those, but again, you know, these phones are so expensive. Make it to where I can rotate like this. Because what happens a lot of the times is, if I want to watch YouTube Shorts, it like crops it. It cuts a lot of the content off. But if Samsung could make it to where I could rotate and kind of change the aspect ratio, I could kind of just swipe through the shorts and not have the content cut off. So, you know, those are my, I guess, major complaints about the cover screen. It's not really an upgrade this year, especially if you're coming from a Z Flip 5, and it just kind of sucks, especially given the price increase. So I know there's a lot of people out there that really like the cover display, but for me, I just don't really understand the appeal of it, because I feel like a lot of the things you can quickly do, like, hey, I want to check the weather, or hey, I've got to text someone back. So you open the app, you type and you start typing a message, right? And look at this tiny keyboard. Look at that. And look at these big thumbs, right? I know I'm not the only one that has big thumbs. This is cumbersome to type on. I mean, it is handy, but it's just small, And I went back and watched some of the Samsung Unpacked event, and I was listening a little more closely than the day it actually was live. And I just find it funny because the marketing is like, you can do so much on the cover display without having to open the device. And I just feel like sometimes that's what this is with this cover display. And my opinion on the book style folding phones, I've yet to try one. I really want to. I'm hoping to get to soon. But I feel like with a foldable, right, if we just if I try to refer to these as a flip, which it is, the flip versus the fold, is you get a full phone that most of us are used to using when it's folded, and you unfold it and it's pretty much like you have a tablet. So it's like you have two devices. And to me, I've never had the thought of, okay, let me do this on a smaller display. Like if I'm watching YouTube or scrolling through Facebook, Netflix, right? These are some of my most used apps right here. I've never had the thought of, I want to do this on a smaller screen. Cross my mind. Maybe some people have, but not for me. The only real appeal, that's a nice rhyme, is it's a one-handed device, right? It's just very, you can reach all corners of it pretty much with having it folded like this. That's the only appeal I can really think of. And maybe for some people, having a device unfolded, and let's say they check their notifications. Let me turn this down a little bit. Maybe they find themselves getting distracted using a device like this. So maybe using the cover display is just a little less distracting for them, because you're kind of limited in what you can do on this. But yeah, I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm absolutely hating on the cover display. It does work well. It really does. But for me and my usage, I just think it's kind of silly. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about here is, of course, the design. There's been a design change this year, and it's rather major. So if we hold these side by side here, the Flip 6 is a flatter design, and it has a matte texture, which I do love. I like the design of the Flip 6 a lot more than the Flip 5. I love the flat feeling phones. It doesn't attract fingerprints as much, so I absolutely love it. But in terms of in terms of like the fingerprint sensor placement, it's pretty much the same. And in my usage, the Flip 5 and the Flip 6, the fingerprint sensor is just as fast on either one. The volume rocker, it's pretty much the same design. It's just the difference in texture. And on the back, as you can see, that kind of matte texture right there where the phone folds, that continues right there. And the actual color of the devices is a matte texture, versus on the Flip 5, it's that glossy texture. And I absolutely prefer when a phone has a matte feel to it, because it rejects fingerprints much better. And I do like that Samsung has kind of put the some color around the camera, like the ring around the camera. I do like that. It makes it stand out a little bit better. And overall, I just kind of like that the Flip 6 is a little more muted, right? I mean, you can get a more popish color, but it just seems a little more muted, and it just seems more elegant. We can take a look at the left side of the device here. Still have the SIM card tray. The only difference is if you look at the actual hole to eject the tray, on the Flip 5 it's near the top, like pointing upward. On the Flip 6 it's on the bottom, kind of pointing downward. So let's take a look at the hinge here. I don't think a whole lot has changed. It looks pretty much the same. So if we fold the device here, let's take a look, kind of like a side view. And we'll kind of take a look at it like that. Again, I know this stuff doesn't matter. It's just things that I notice, like as I'm showing you guys the devices. Look how reflective the Flip 5 is because of that polish, right? That polish, slick feel. How the light kind of just puts a glare on the camera. I just love how the matte texture on the Flip 6 doesn't do that. So there we go. There's a good look at the hinge. Not a whole lot has changed there. And You still got the USB-C charging. I believe that's 2 microphones on the bottom. And this year on the Flip 6, for the speaker cutout, it's just like one singular cutout, versus on the Flip 5, it's like 5 or 6 little vertical cutouts. But again, this is minor stuff, just a design change. If you're coming from a Flip 4, it's pretty major. Or unless you just absolutely hate the glossy finish of the Flip 5, you know, or you just feel like upgrading. And they both feel good in the hand. I guess I prefer the feel of the Flip 6, but it's nothing major. Let's start talking about the inner display here. Even though on the spec list the Flip 6 has a peak brightness of 2,600 nits, to be honest, you're not going to see that very often. So what matters more to me is the sustained brightness. And I don't know why, but for some reason, when I fully crank the brightness on these, the Flip 5 looks a little brighter. I'm not sure why. I've made sure that the color mode is the same. But when I use them separately, I never felt like the Flip 6 or even the Flip 5 was majorly brighter than one or the other. So, and also kind of the edge of the protective film that goes around the display, like the perimeter, that's a glossy finish on the Flip 5, and on the Flip 6 it's a matte texture, so that's a welcomed change also. And I know people are concerned about the crease. Now my Flip 5 is pretty old, so if we look at the crease here, it doesn't look nearly as bad on the Flip 6, but over time it may kind of work its way up to the same point as the crease on the Flip 5. That's kind of a time will tell type situation. So I want to go ahead and get this out of the way. Let's talk about cameras. Now, I'm not an avid picture taker. I just don't take lots of photos. I do like my devices to have a good camera, not the best, but just a good camera, because most of the time for me when I'm taking photos, I'm in situations where the lighting is pretty good. And to be honest, between the Flip 5 here, even though the primary camera is a 12 megapixel and on the Flip 6 it's a 50, unless you're really zooming in and looking at the minor details, if you were to take the same photo on both of these, at first glance they're both going to look very similar. Maybe the colors are a little bit better from the photos out of the Flip 6, but at just first glance, you know, if you're posting them to social media where people don't really zoom in and pixel peep, the photos are going to look very similar. But in terms of the selfie camera, it's still 10 megapixels on the Flip 6, so no change there. As well as on the back, the ultra wide is the same camera, so pretty much you're just getting an upgraded primary camera. And so in terms of performance, this year on the Flip 6 you get the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 and 12 gigabytes of RAM versus the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 on the Flip 5 and 8 gigabytes of RAM. And to be honest, in the regular daily usage, it's not going to make much of a difference. But if you do, you know, CPU or GPU intensive tasks like editing videos or any type of content creation, that's where you're going to see the 8 Gen 3 kind of outshine the 8 Gen 2. But let's take a look here at the benchmarks on the Flip 6. If we go to history, and this was just the other day, July 31st, a single core of 2294 and a multi-core score of 6,993. And if we take a look here at the Flip 5, It's a single core score of 2069, so not far off in the single core performance, and a multi-core score of 5394. And the GPU is quite a bit more strong in the Flip 6, so if you're a gamer, it should do better there, as well as the Flip 6 has the vapor chamber. Now, when I ran these Geekbench tests, I used a laser thermometer to kind of measure the temperatures, and the Flip 5 peaked at, I think, a temperature of 38.6 degrees Celsius, and the Flip 6 peaked at a temperature of 35.8, so a decent bit cooler. So that's good to see. If you're a gamer, you're having those long gamer sessions, it should run cooler. But in the day-to-day usage, I'm not sure it'll make much of a difference. Now, the only real difference, if we go down here in the settings of both of these, I'll show you guys that it's One UI 6.1 and One UI 6.1.1 on the Flip 6. So as of now, I don't have the AI stuff on the Flip 5, but apparently it's coming, because I looked at one of the Samsung web pages of like comparing the devices, and it listed all the same AI that the Flip 6 has for the Flip 5. So apparently that's coming soon. I'm going to do a dedicated video to all of the AI features on the Flip 6, and they do work surprisingly well. The only thing I could really see myself using day to day is probably the browsing assist, and the chat assist works pretty well too. You can kind of reformat your messages to sound better, and it can also do spelling and grammar checking. The note assist is pretty cool too, so you can change also the formatting of your notes, and the AI will give several different formats for you to choose from. Stay tuned for the full Galaxy AI video, because some of these features may be more useful to you guys than they are me, so I do want to make sure I cover those. Now, in terms of battery life, I'm comfortable saying that the Flip 6 should easily get at least an hour more of screen on time, maybe even an hour and a half. I recorded my average battery usage per hour in Google Keep. So if we take a look, I recorded, this is a 6-day average. This is my Flip 5 battery usage. So this is kind of like an average per hour. I went through and averaged all these out. So 13, 13 and a half, 16, 15.2. And I got an average of 14.25% of battery drain per hour, but you know, let's just round up to say 15. Now keep in mind, this isn't super scientific, apples to apples, but so you know, there will be some error. It's not like a complete, I held them side by side and did everything I did on the Flip 6 on the Flip 5 the same exact way. If we take a look at my Flip 6 average battery life, if we round up to the next number, I averaged around 10% of battery drain per hour. So that's quite a bit better, but again, remember, it's not super scientific. But I feel more than comfortable saying an hour more of screen on time, maybe even an hour and a half. Since Samsung did upgrade the battery to 4,000 milliamp hours from 3,700, which I'm glad they did. What sucks and what's a real bummer is it's still 25 watt charging, and that's not good. You know, in this day and age, a lot of people are on the go, so when you plug up your phone, you want to get a quick charge. You want to get a meaningful amount of charge when you connect it. But it's still capped at 25 watts, no change there. The same wireless charging speed, the same reverse wireless charging speed, which leads me to feel like Samsung missed the mark on a lot of stuff this year. This is definitely, you know, back when Apple did the iPhone S models, this is an S year upgrade for sure. It's not like I was expecting a totally different phone, but the expectations I had set, or I guess my wish list you should say, I felt like wasn't unreasonable. I was hoping Samsung did a full outer display for the cover screen and given us at least 120 hertz and making it brighter, like a higher sustained brightness. I was hoping for IP68, but to tell you the truth, I don't know if that's possible on a folding device. It does have IP48, whereas the Flip 5 has the IPX8, so no dust resistance at all. But the 4 in 48, it's only for like particles greater than 1 millimeter in size. So it's kind of like, what's the point? Is that, I mean, I guess it is more protection than the Flip 5, but was it even worth them putting that 4 in there just to say they did it? I feel like that's really all it is. You know, as far as the charging, I was hoping Samsung could do at least 40 watts. I feel like with this battery size, 4,000 milliamp hours, 40 watt charging would be pretty quick. But yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about the Flip 6 this year. Is it's an S upgrade, and I feel like it could have been so much more. But we can be hopeful for next year with the Flip 7. Stay tuned for the AI features video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Did you get the Flip 6? What did you upgrade from? And how do you feel about the cover screen? I'm really excited to see what you guys have to say about that. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next video.